Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are still waiting for people to join. I hope people remembered to join. Hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Can you hear me? I hope everyone can hear me. I don't have trouble with my audio. Hello. Welcome as we wait for everyone to join. Thank you for joining me. I hope you can hear me. If the audio is not working, please let me know in the chat. Can you hear me? Everything of mine seems to be working. So hopefully we don't have technical issues. Welcome, welcome, welcome. As we wait for people to join. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I think now it's 9 p.m. Kenyan time. It's 11 a.m. Calgary time. As we wait for more people to join. We're still waiting for people to join. Welcome, welcome, welcome. As you join me, welcome. Just waiting for more people to join. I hope people remembered. I know sometimes we are on African time where we come a little bit late and people are told 9, they must come at least 9:30 v 10ish 10:30. So I understand it's an African mentality. It's a different mentality for Canadians. It's a different mentality for the West. When the West says 9 p.m., they expect you there at 9 p.m. No excuses, because they believe here time equals money. If you're late for something, it means you're losing money. If you're paid by the hour, if you're paid $10 an hour and you show up 15, 20, 30 minutes late, it means they cut your $10 an hour to now you're 30 minutes late. Now you're making 5 because you didn't work the whole hour, right? So it's a different mentality here. We keep time. When we say 9, it means 9. So I'll give people a few more minutes to join. If not, we will just continue with the people who are there, because I know not everyone can join. People are on different time zones. So I understand that there's different time zones. So some people are sleeping where they are, some people are at work. So if people are not able to join because of that reason, of course, I understand. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me. I hope you can hear me. If you cannot hear me, please let me know. Because I can hear myself, but I don't know if everyone can hear me. So if you cannot hear me, raise your hand. Can you hear me? If you can hear me, let me know. If you can't hear me as well, let me know as we wait for more people. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for joining me. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You can hear me. Okay, thank you. Thank you, thank you. All right, I will be starting shortly. Um, I know people are on different time zones, so I understand. Some people are at work, some people are sleeping. It's daytime in Canada, where I am. Canada, we have 3 or 4 different time zones. So some people it's 2 hours ahead, some people 3 hours behind each other. Sometimes it's 1 hour. So where I am, it's 11 in the morning. So it's sunny and bright outside, but it's full of snow. Welcome as you all join me. Welcome, welcome. Thank you, Teresia or Tere. Thank you, Keith, Kate, Kate, Kajetan, Keith, Teresia, thank you, Little Jones, thank you. If you can hear me, thank you as you join me. We'll give people some time to join. Sometimes people are delayed because, of course, network. We know how network. Thank you, Samuel. Because of how network sometimes functions, sometimes we have issues with the network. So some people are able to log in, and then I see some people disappear. I don't know if it's network. So many things can happen, especially when it's live. It's not recorded, so we are live. Thank you very much, Samuel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you're all in my forum for FICA Canada, you know I discuss all information about immigration to Canada. Sometimes you might hear me talk about USA because I've lived in USA before, so I have a bit of knowledge about USA immigration. USA and Canada also share a border. They have a very close-knit relationship as well. So you'll hear me talk about USA. Australia has a very similar immigration program to Canada. So you'll hear me talk about a little bit about Australia, but I am not a specialist in those countries, but you'll hear once in a while we talk about Australia, USA. So yeah, but my specialty is of course Canada. I am licensed to practice immigration law here. So you'll hear me talk about Canada a lot. If you have questions about Canada, I am it. Thank you for those joining me. When I started FICA Canada, the social networks, the WhatsApp and the Telegraph, I started because a few people had questions. Some people had not even heard of Canada. Some people did not know you can come to Canada on a work visa. People didn't even know where Canada was. But Canada is becoming one of the fastest growing immigration destinations. And that is because their immigration pathways are very, thank you very much. Thank you. Canada is one of the fastest growing immigration destinations in terms of students, in terms of refugees, in terms of students, in terms of visits, because even though the weather can be a bit tricky, there's a lot of snow, there's a lot of ice during winter, but they've been living with these conditions since the country was conceived. So they have learned to cope and to function as a country, even with the most extreme weathers. So weather is never a barrier for Canada. And it's not been a barrier to me or anyone that I know that has come here. Nobody has been like, oh, it is so cold. I cannot make money. You can still make money even when it's so cold because they heat everything indoors. Houses are heated inside. Cars are heated inside. Buses are heated. Trains are heated. So the only time you need to really put heavy clothes is when you're going outside, which you try to, yeah, you just bundle up. You put on t-shirts, you put on sweaters, you bundle up, you put 3 pairs of socks. They have boots here with fur inside. They have heavy coats with fur inside that are lined to protect you. So you still function even when it's extreme cold. So never fear, oh, Canada is so cold. Yes, it's cold, but um, it's survivable. If you haven't seen in the news, oh, Canadians have died because it's so cold. then you have nothing to worry about. When you come to Rome, you do what the Romans do, and you dress the way they dress in winter, and then you make money like them, and life goes on. You should see, even like when they have babies, they take them outside in a stroller and they are bundled up and they're just functioning, because they've learned to deal with the situation as it is. That's one of the most admirable things about some of these places. You're like, how did they figure how to manage? When snow falls all over, they will come with trucks. They've designed a way to remove snow from the roads so that the roads you can still drive. They've figured a way to, heat indoors. Everything is heated during winter. They've figured how to make very warm clothes. Not the clothes you wear in Lemuru. Lemuru is not cold. If you want to see cold, go inside a fridge and enter. Put your head in there. You'll get a sense of the coldness I'm talking about. Not Lemuru cold. People are like, oh, it's so cold. Is it colder than Lemuru? Lemuru is not cold. So it gets really cold, but it's survivable. When you come here with a mission, you don't worry about the rest. You focus on your goal and you just keep going. All right, I will start to cover what I wanted to cover today. Thank you, all those who are joining me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will cover what I wanted to cover today. Since the beginning of 2020, when COVID happened and the borders were closed to immigrants, what Canada did was, because people are stuck here, imagine people had come on visitor visa to visit their children who are graduating in 2019. Then you're here for 2, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, and then the border is closed. So these people brought up concerns of, okay, the border is closed. We cannot exit back to our country. So what do? We need to eat. We need to survive. Our goal was not to visit this long. So what the government of Canada did, it implemented a measure. If you're stuck inside Canada, look for an employer. And let me tell you, employers are there. There's always labor shortages in Canada. If you look at statistics, there's always labor shortages in Canada, and this is not ending. So if you enter Canada on a visitor visa, you look for an employer who is hiring. First of all, before an employer can hire somebody who's not a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident or someone with a work permit, they have to ask for permission from the government to hire that person. They have to show they have tried to advertise for that job locally. They cannot find anyone to do the job. And so what the Department of Labor will do, they will look at the market again, make sure that there's no one to perform the job. They will give this employer an LMIA. You've heard of LMIA. Simply means permission from the Labor Department to hire someone who is not a Canadian, a permanent resident, any of that criteria of people who can work. So when you come on a visitor visa, this is what has to happen. I know a lot of people have been asking me, can I convert my visitor visa to work visa? No, it's not called a conversion. You have to find an employer who is hiring. They have to have that permission from the government to hire someone from outside. They have them, sometimes they have them, but they don't have workers. And once they give you the offer, the job offer, then that's when now you apply for a work permit. The work permit takes anywhere from 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, depending on how busy the work permit issuing department is, how busy they are. And if they issue you a work permit, that's when now you start working legally. The approval rates for those ones, we don't see denials, because by the time the employer is seeking you who has just come on a visit visa. It means they have exhausted um, every other avenue to hire somebody who is local, because it's easier to hire somebody who is already here, has a social insurance number, has a work permit, is a Canadian citizen. So much easier to just hire, right? They speak the language, they've been here, they know the weather, um, they know everything about Canada, they know the job, they know the company, because if you're born here or you've been living here for a long time, you're going to know the name of the company. You're going to know how to get from the company to your house to the job. So it's easier for an employer to hire someone who is here. But sometimes they cannot find these people. They are desperate for workers. So that's when now they ask for the permission, the LMIA, to hire, and they get the permission, then they can hire you. If they extend you the job offer letter, then you apply for work permit and you start the job. So that's the process for when you're a visitor. You don't convert it like the way people think, oh, I'm here on a visitor visa, can I convert the visitor visa to a work permit? It's not a conversion. It's that's the process. You find an employer, you have to find an employer. You can't just apply for a work permit. You have to find an employer, and then you have to the employer has to apply for that permission, that LMI, not you. The employer has to apply for it. And then once with those two documents now, with your CV showing that your resume, your CV showing you can perform the job, then you apply for the work permit. So now you're no longer a visitor. The other question that kept coming up, okay, I've arrived in Canada, I have a 10-year visa, visitor visa. Can I stay in Canada 10 years? First of all, no. You're only allowed to stay 6 months at a time. If you have a 10-year visa, you stay 6 months, you have to exit at the 6 months, or you apply for an extension. The 10-year means you can enter, it's multiple entry. You enter, you stay 6 months or less, you exit, you can come back within the 10 years. You can come in, exit, come back, exit again within 10 years. They don't want you to keep running to the consulate to ask for another visitor visa. That's why they give you such a long visa. You can come, you can exit, you can, like that. So now you've found the employer has the LMIA, they've extended you the job offer. So now you apply for work permit, the work permit comes. That converts you now from a visitor to a worker. The work permit will be for 2 or 3 years, depending on the length of permission the employer has gotten from the government. So you can work for the 2 years or the 3 years. So you're no longer a visitor. Forget about your 10-year visa now. You're here now because you cannot be a visitor and a worker at the same time. Once you gain one status, once you gain a worker status, you're no longer a visitor, you're a worker. So now you complete the 2 years. The employer has to give you another contract, a renewal of the contract. Don't wait for it to end. If you're within 2 months of your 2-year work permit expiring, always ask the employer, could you please extend my contract? Could you give me a new contract? They will do that because they know the law. They can't just extend it to you. They have to advertise the job. If there's a Canadian willing to do the job, they are not supposed to offer you the job. But most of the time, 99.9% of the time, the Canadians are not there willing to do those jobs. So the employer will renew your contract for another 2 years or 3 years, and then you can continue working. Okay, that's how that works. Whatever that conversion, people are asking, what is that conversion? So after the 2 years, you ask the employer, could you renew my contract? They will do that if they cannot find someone local to do the job, because they have to ask again the government, okay, government, this person has been here for 2 years. I still cannot find a Canadian to do this job. Can I extend another contract with this employer? They will be given a new LMIA again for another 2 years, and then you continue working. So you're no longer a visitor. And you really don't want to be a visitor, because as a visitor, you have to exit every 6 months. You really don't want that. So a lot of people worry, okay, now if my 10-year visa, I don't have my 10-year visa. You would rather be working, making money, having a legal status, because once you start working, you're entitled to some things that a visitor is not entitled. You're entitled to a social insurance number, which allows you to pay taxes to the government. And you're also entitled to the healthcare that all of us are entitled to. So if you're sick, you just go to the hospital, they treat you. If you're having a baby, you see a doctor every month until the baby is born. You go, you give birth. The best hospital, whatever hospital you want to go and give birth, you give birth. You're given your baby, you take your baby home. The baby is a Canadian, of course. Anybody born on Canadian soil is a Canadian. So any kind of health that you need, any kind of attention, that you break your leg, you break your back, you need x-rays, you need mammograms, you need any radiology, now you've got cancer and you need treatments, everything is covered by the government. So don't worry about losing your 10-year visa, because your 10-year visa only allows you to enter Canada, visit for 6 months, and then exit. You want that work permit, even if it's 2 years, you want that work permit, because it gives you those liberties of that I just mentioned, including many, many more. Because now you're working for 2 years, you're paying taxes, you're you can buy a car. If you want to buy a house, you can buy anything you want in Canada. You're sending money back to your family. Of course, you want to be working. You don't want to be just a visitor. Okay? So after 2020, we thought the government had said they would end that criteria of applying for work permit for visitors, but now they extended it. They extended it until 2025. So that tells you whatever what they started in 2020 up to now, it's working, because usually the government of Canada is very strategic. They just don't implement something and then they implement something, they watch what that temporary measure does. If it's beneficial to its economy, they extend it. If it's beneficial to the Canadians, they extend it. And that's what happened. The temporary measure has been very beneficial. There's a lot of jobs that one did not have people to work, and now those jobs now are covered. The economy is growing. So it's a good thing for the Canadian economy. So that's why they've extended it. You enter as a visitor, you come on a conference, you come for a summit, you come for a birthday party, you come for a wedding, you're a visitor, you're here temporarily. If you enter, you look for an employer, and then you follow that procedure, and then you get your work permit. So now I will go to the beginning of even getting that visitor visa, because a lot of questions that were coming through to the WhatsApp groups and the Telegraph group that we have were what are the requirements for the visitor. You want to come for a temporary visa. What are the requirements? And why is it important? It's good to know the importance of something so that you know why they are asking that. I like to know why. Okay, you're saying this. Why? Why did Canada now extend this? You can come temporarily, look for an employer, and stay longer. Why would they do that? Why would a normal functioning government, one of the best governments in the world, decide to just, we'll extend it, right? Why would they do that? I like to know why. So I'll tell you why they ask for certain things when you're applying for a visa, so that think like them, so that you can counter them, you can counter the visa officer on their turn. Okay. So when you're coming for a visit, the law assumes that you might come here and decide not to go back. That is what the law assumes. It wants to believe that you're coming for a temporary measure, that you're coming to study. After your 2 year or 3 year or 4 year study, you're going back to your country, or you're coming for a wedding. That is, a wedding is one day. So you're coming for a wedding and then you're supposed to exit Canada. That is what is expected, but the law assumes this person, when they see how good Canada is, they might decide to stick around. It's the same for US, Australia. Think about all the first world countries. They assume that you're coming, especially when you're coming from a third world country, you're coming from Asia, from Africa, you're not very well off. They assume you will see how good it is here and you'll want to stick around. You'll see how they are beautiful women and you'll want to marry one. Okay. So they know, and this has been, of course, documented through years. People have come and refused to go back. It is not a secret. People come and they decide not to go back. So the law knows this. You can't fool them. They've done statistics. They check when they issue visas. They go back and they see what happened when we issued all these visas 20 years ago, 50 years ago. What has happened? What is the trend? So they know that most likely than not, people will come and decide to stick around. You need to counter them to show them that you will go back. Your duty is to convince them that you will go back. The duty is not on the inviter, because a Canadian inviting you for a visit, the only thing I have to produce as your inviter is my status as a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident or a student. You're coming for a student's graduation. All they have to produce is they've been studying at Bow Valley College. They are graduating on this date. This is the graduation ceremony. They produce that documentation. They've passed their grades, so they are graduating. That's all they have to prove. They are legally in Canada on a student visa. They've studied, they've finished, they've passed all their courses. Now they are graduating. This is the document they need to produce for you. That's it. There's no other obligation for that student who is inviting you for their graduation. If I invite you for a wedding, the only obligation on me is to produce my invitation card and my status as a Canadian citizen or permanent resident. That's it. I don't have to produce anything else. They don't need my bank statements because I'm already here. They don't need anything else from me. So the burden of proof, as it's called in the law, the burden of proof is on you. Convince the visa officer that actually your sole intention is to come for a wedding and to go back to your country, or to come for a graduation and to go back to your country. So how do you do this? So some of these things you have to produce are bank statements. You've heard of bank statements. People keep asking me, what is the balance on the bank statement that I need to produce? Have as much as possible. The more you have, the better for you, of course, because again, they assume that those people who can really come for tourism, can afford to come for a wedding for 2 days and then tour a little bit of Canada for 1 week, 2 weeks, and then go back, are people who can actually afford it. So have as much money as you can in the bank. Please don't sell a piece of property, put 800,000 in the account and then produce this bank statement. This bank statement looks fishy when you do that. So have a bank statement that is active, a bank statement that is 3 to 6 months. I didn't charge my phone here. A bank statement that is 3 to 6 months showing activity of in and out deposits and withdrawals, an active account. Now, can you do a savings account as well? Of course, you can attach a savings account. Maybe you're working in Qatar or you're working somewhere else, and you work and then you send your money back home. So you've saved all this money. You have 500,000 of your currency back home, but then where you're staying, where you're working in Qatar, you have a bank there where you're paid your weekly or monthly or every 2 weeks, whatever you're paid. You deposit it because you have to eat, you have to pay rent, you have to pay taxes to the government where you're working. So you have something that you actually deposit your money, withdraw money, pay rent, pay this, pay that. So you also produce that one. You might not have a big balance because this is the account you just use for your daily use. But then you have a savings account back home somewhere you're tucking your money. This is actually a good thing. If you're applying from somewhere where it's not your country, let's say in this case Qatar, and you're a Ugandan, but you're saving all your money, majority of your money in Bank of Uganda. Produce that. You have all this money you've saved in your Bank of Uganda. It shows that your intention is actually to save your money back in Bank of Uganda because your intention is to go back to Uganda. But you have an account in Qatar where you do daily transactions, monthly transactions to pay your way, your living expenses in Qatar. So produce that account and produce the other one as well. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, produce both. That is bank statement. So have as much as you can and show an account that is active as well. Don't just show them an account from Bank of Uganda. You've saved 1 million Ugandan currency, and then you're living in Qatar. They're going to be, so what do you actually, are you doing something illegal in Qatar? Okay, this is where now they have to think what they think. They think you're in Qatar, you're working illegally, you're just shipping your money to Bank of Uganda, Bank of Uganda. So you're working for cash. So this is not governments don't like that when you're cheating the government of Qatar by working just under the table, cash, cash, cash. You ship it to Uganda, Bank of Uganda, Bank of Uganda. Okay, what are you doing? They want to see your work permit in Qatar. They want to see the bank that you bank with, your daily account that you bank in Qatar. They want to see an account that's active. This is where your money comes in. This is where your rent comes out. You're paying for your cell phone. You're buying bundles to call your people in Uganda. A daily account. Anybody who's working in a foreign country is going to have an account like that. So that's why you don't want to show just a savings account sitting somewhere in Bank of Uganda. It's going to look suspicious. You're going to look like a drug dealer or someone doing illegal activity in Qatar. So they don't do that. Don't make that mistake. All right. So bank statements, I've talked about that and why it's important. A letter of your employer, whether you're applying, you're a Ugandan working in Qatar, but you're in Uganda, you're in Qatar working for someone. So tell your employer, okay, I'm going, sometimes I've heard, especially people working for Arab countries, that employers will not give you a letter that you're going to a Canadian consulate to ask for a visa. They don't want that. They think you're abandoning your contract. So sometimes just tell them, yeah, I have a business I have to attend to. It's very important. It's in July 26th to 29th. It's a very quick visit. I will be back to my job. So I just need a letter to show I actually work and that I have permission for that day. You really don't have to tell them what you're doing. The letter should be addressed to whom it may concern. It doesn't have to say to the visa officer. So to whom it may concern. All right. So have an employer letter giving you time off for whatever you're coming. You're coming for a wedding. Have an employer give you that letter that you actually work there and you're going to be given time off to attend a personal matter in August 26th to 29th of 2023. All right, the other things you need to produce and why they are important, birth certificates of your children. They want to see you have something that will compel you to come back to your country. These are called socio family ties. If you're married, produce a marriage certificate. Now, if you're married the way it's done back home, people just get together, families get together, you have a big party and now you're married. It's considered you're married, you have 5 children with this person. Under Canadian law, that is recognized, although now you have to show you have joint staff. Just saying we've been living together for 10 years doesn't make it a marriage for this circumstance of showing you're married. So you have to produce a marriage certificate, or you have to produce joint assets. So bank statement that I mentioned, let it have your name and your spouse, two names on that bank statement, to show you're coming back to your spouse. You're coming here for a short period and then you'll go back to your spouse. Birth certificates of your children, let them birth certificate name you and another person, even if the children are not with just the woman you're living with, your current spouse. Even if you have other children with other women, as long as the birth certificate mention you, that's okay as well, because they are your children legally. So those are social ties that are actually very helpful. When you're showing you're coming for a short visit, you will return. All right. Um, the other thing you need, if you have a business, you're running a small business in your country, have a business registration, have a business, whatever happens in your country when someone is doing a business, have that documentation. If you pay taxes, even better for you. You want to be paying taxes to show you're not just cheating your government. You're doing something, you don't pay taxes, and then you're saying, I have a business. Okay, where do you pay taxes? Where is the business registration? Where is the city compliance? Okay, so show those documents that you're actually running a business in your country. And these, the business bank statement, this is the business registration, this is the tax ID, show the taxes you've paid, show everything to do with that business, that it's actually viable. All right. Land, if you have a land, if you have a piece of property, that shows you have social ties to your country. So produce any land titles that you have, produce any car titles or car logs or whatever they're called in your country to show that you own a car. Another question that came up was, okay, I have a car, but I don't own the car. I pay the bank every single month. That is okay as well. Just show that documentation. It is a car that I've been given through a loan company. I am paying for the car every single month. It's not your car until you finish to pay it. So, but it's still, you're still paying for it. So it's still part of your car, although you don't have the final title for the car, but you're paying for it. So this is your documentation that you need to produce as well. Okay. So car titles, even if it's not yours, you're paying for it. It will be yours eventually in 5 years when you finish paying for it. If you have any stocks, any bonds, any shares, anything like that, you have shares at Uganda National Bank, produce that. You have shares with, Equity bank, produce that. That's good evidence that you have, first of all, you can afford to come for a short trip, and second of all, you have ties that will propel you to go back to your country, right? So those are some of the things you need when you're coming for a short visit to Canada. You need to prove that you will come and return. The problem is not invitation. The problem is not you're coming for a conference. Conferences are happening almost every other day, especially now since COVID is over. The burden of proof is not on the conference. The conference, all you have to do, honestly, you just go online, you pay for the conference, they produce you a receipt. That is it. The conference doesn't have to prove that you're coming for a conference and return. The same, you're being invited by a Canadian or someone studying here in college, they're graduating, they don't have to produce anything else. So the burden is on you. You produce all these documents to tell your story. You're coming for a short visit, you will return. You have a job to come back to. You have properties over there, so you really don't really want to stick around here. The more, the better, because documents speak for you. Most of the time, Canadian consulates, as especially in African countries, not African countries, some African countries, they won't call you for an interview. They want you to produce documents. They will go off these documents to determine who you are. and if to give you a visa or not. They won't call you for, there's no interview. They'll call you for an interview if they have a question, but most of the time they won't call you. If there's a document missing, they will just dismiss your application and deny. So produce as many documents as you can. Of course, real documents with your real names, because they do verify them. Um, so yeah, don't produce anything fake. Don't register a business that's non-existent, or produce a tax ID, or show you've paid taxes on a business that doesn't exist. They will verify. All right, so I've covered what you need for a visitor visa, because this is now the pathway that people are cra- clambering to do to do a visitor application. Because once you enter, first of all, you have to prove to the visa officer. Don't give any indication to the visa officer that your intention is to come and look for a job. If you do that, he will deny it even before he opens your file. You cannot ever let him know that you have any intention of looking for a job, because the law mandates him that if you look like you're coming to look for a job, to deny you a visa, because your intention is to come for a short visit. So demonstrate to the visa officer giving you a visitor visa that you're only coming here for a visit, and then you will exit. And then I will tell you guys what to do when you're on the other side. Okay, but the first thing you need to convince this visa officer, please, I'm only coming for a short visit. I don't want to stay in that car. It's too cold. I don't even like cold. I have asthma. I don't want to stay there. It's too cold. Convince him. I don't want to stay there. I have two small children. I have my husband over here. I'm coming back to them. I'm not going to stay there. Okay? Once that's done and he has issued you the visitor visa, because he has a mandate, he has a book he has to look through to make sure you have the requirements you need as a visitor to Canada before he can issue you a visa. So he has to follow that, his own laws that have been set aside by for him. So convince him, and then once you get your visa, you have another officer waiting for you. That's the border officer. You have to convince that border officer as well that you're only coming for a short visit, and then after the short visit, you will exit. That's the whole convincing. Okay. Do people overstay? Yeah, all the time. But you don't let the people that are not supposed to think that you're going to overstay think that you're going to overstay. Okay. Once you're cleared by the border officer, you've convinced him, where are you going? You give the address. Who is picking you up? You have somebody picking you up, or you've rented a car. You can actually, when you come with a driver license of your country, you're allowed to drive up to 3 months. So you can come, you can lease a car. If you feel comfortable driving on Canadian roads, you have to insure the car. If you can do that, you rent a car at the airport, you show this documentation to the border officer, and then you're into the country. Once you're into the country and you come for your event and you see you like it, you'd like to stay, that's when now you start looking for employers who are hiring people who are here on a visitor visa. So you start looking for them. They're all over the internet. If you open any job boards, Indeed, monster.com, monster.ca, job bank, there's so many of them. They advertise, they even say that only apply if you're in Canada, because they want to shorten the time from when you're already in Canada. It means they don't have to wait for you to be given a visa, because the visa processes are so long. So the employers will even put, if you're here on a visitor visa, apply for this job, because now all he has to do, that employer, he already sometimes has this LMIA ready. It's been approved because he can't find anyone in Canada to do the job. So now he'll tell you, apply for the job right away. I have the LMIA ready. So all he's looking for you is the right candidate. You're the right candidate. He has the LMIA. He'll give you these two documents. You apply for work permit inside Canada. You don't have to exit. Why is this important? Previously, if you came as a visitor and you find an employer and they have this permission to hire someone who's not Canadian, you had to send your application to your visa officer of your visa office of the country of your citizenship, where you carry a passport. All right, so you don't have to do that anymore. You can apply right here in Canada. So I wanted to cover that so that people are very excited about this. Now you have from now until 2025, you enter Canada, start hunting for these employers, so that if they give you the job offer letter, if you don't want to go back to your country, you apply for a work permit. The work permit is 2 years or 3 years, depending on how long the employer has demonstrated they need a foreign worker to do the job, and you go from there. All right, the other thing I wanted to cover was people ask now, okay, now I have the 2-year work permit. What happens after that? After the 2 years, of course, there's other pathways that they're always coming up. Because by this time now you have the Canadian work experience, which is very valuable. You know the culture, you know your way around, you have a social insurance number. There's a pathway now called Canadian Experience Class. Of course, you have to qualify for that. There's a criteria to qualify for that. And like I said, the employer can decide to renew your contract for another two. If you've been such a good employee, they will renew the contract. They will demonstrate they can't find anyone to do the job. They will give you a renewal for your job contract. And there you go. The other thing, once you enter as well, you can apply for studies. If you enter Canada at any given point, this is not a new thing. If you enter Canada on a visitor visa, you can apply for school. You can apply for a college or a university or a trade school. And then they'll give you an offer letter, an admission letter, not an offer letter. They'll give you an admission letter. With that letter, you apply for a study permit. You don't need to exit. Okay? So there's different ways now you can stay permanently. And that's what I wanted to discuss. Or you can study even though you've come as a visitor. Let's say your visit visa is, because you can stay 6 months, like I said, unless a border officer, when you're entering, he look at your documents, he can determine, even if you are given a 10-year visa, he can decide to cancel it and issue you a 3-month visa at that point. So if he gives you 3 months, you can study for a short course, even without the need of study permit. A course that is 6 months or less, you don't need a study permit. You can just apply to the school and study. There are a lot of short courses that are actually very marketable in Canada. So you can apply for those short courses that are under 6 months. And then you apply for jobs within that industry. All right. So those are the pathways that down the line, and the Canadian immigration changes all the time. So don't worry so much about what's going to happen after 2 years, what's going to happen after 3 years. The the Canadian immigration strategies change all the time. So who knows, 2 years down the line, you've already been working on the 2-year work permit. Who knows what will happen 2 years down the line? There might be new programs coming up. There might be new implementations going on. So just focus on the one task. Then once you accomplish that, you move on to the next. And after that, you move on to the next. So that's what I wanted to cover today. Are there any comments, any questions, any concerns? I didn't want to keep people too long because I know it's almost 10 p.m. Kenyan time. It's almost noon Canadian time. So I wanted to cover that so that people know how to go, who can apply. Who can apply for work permit, me or the employer? You have to apply for the work permit. Once you have these two documents, it's very simple to apply for a work permit. Very, very simple. You can do it yourself. The government website the Government of Canada website gives you free, what is it called? Guidance manual, guide manual. It's free. It tells you, okay, you're on page 1 of a work permit application. Put this, put your last name, first name, middle name. Okay, put the employer name, address, and this. Okay, question 4, put the location. Is it London, Ontario, Canada? That is the address of the employer. Put the zip code. It tells you that. It's very simple to do it yourself. So that should not worry you. Or if you needed, of course, assistance, we are here to help you. It's what we do. Seeking asylum is not, you can always seek asylum if you have a valid reason to seek asylum. Once you enter Canada, you can seek asylum, because if you're not running from war, like people are running from Ukraine, or when Congo was in conflict, you cannot file asylum in your country of citizenship. So sometimes you have to exit your country with a visitor visa or study visa. And then once you enter the Canadian border, now you let them know, actually, my intention was to file for asylum because I've been facing discrimination. I like women. I'm a woman. I've been trying to be with a woman. My country won't let me be with a woman. Whatever that case is for asylum, you can file it once you enter, unless you're running from war. In that case, for those people in Ukraine facing war, they can file either in Ukraine or go to neighboring countries like Poland and file for asylum in Poland. They don't have to come to Canada to file for asylum. They can file there. The UN is there and other NGOs are there helping them file that. All right. Once I'm in Canada, port of entry, is it where the person to pick me up, or is it a different? Yeah, the port of entry is an airport, is the border. Once you're cleared by the border officer, usually you'll go to baggage claim. Once you're in baggage claim, the next gate is exit. So they pick you up at the baggage claim near the exit gate. If I come to Canada on a visit and convert to work permit, how long could it take for your family to join you? Oh my, this is a tricky one, because let's say you've just started a job, you're new here, you don't even know the school system, you don't know where to enroll your children for school, you don't know anything. I would advise work for at least 3 to 6 months, because first of all, the government again will come to you and say, okay, you want to invite your family. Oh, okay, show us how much you're making. Remember, now you're making Canadian dollars, so your bills are in Canadian dollars, your taxes are in Canadian dollars. So you're not gonna, I know you guys see $100 and you, oh, there's a lot of money, because it's converted to whatever currency of your country. But here, when you make $100, the government first takes like 15 is gone. You don't even see it is gone. Okay, so that $100 now becomes 75. And then after the 75, the government takes again for your retirement. Then the government takes another one, gee, I don't know for what. So by the time you get your $100 that you worked for, it's probably 65. Okay, so you need to demonstrate that you have the capacity to invite your family and to sustain them. And life here is not cheap. Rents are expensive, especially now after COVID. Everything is expensive. Heating of your house is expensive. Transportation is expensive. So the government will scrutinize you as the person inviting your family. These are different kind of invitation now. You are now saying that I'm inviting my family to come and visit me. I'm a worker here. So don't confuse these two invitations. This invitation that now you are a worker, because you're not a Canadian. You're a Canadian worker. You're not a Canadian citizen, and you're not a Canadian permanent resident. So the burden of proof now will be on you. You're inviting your family to come and visit you. Okay, how much do you make? They look. How much did you pay in taxes? They look. Where are you living? What are the accommodations you're providing for your family? So you need to have already established yourself a little bit so that you can demonstrate that they have somewhere to come and visit. All right. Hope I've answered that one. Anyone else with a question? If I have an undergraduate admission offer, can I apply for a visit visa for campus tour to make a decision? No, don't apply for a visit visa. Yeah, if you have an undergraduate admission letter to a school, apply for a study visa directly. If you apply for what is called a tour visa of your campus, they will most definitely deny it. Okay, so if you get an admission letter, it's better to apply for a study visa right away. Because when you come to study already, you'll have time to tour your campus. There's no purpose for you to come before your studies to tour. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you for joining me. Really, I really appreciate it. Really, really appreciate it. Always remember to subscribe to our channel, like, comment. Let us know. A lot of people have learned a lot of things since you guys became Fikaholics and joined our forums. You've learned so much. People didn't know that they can apply for visa themselves. Let me tell you, when we were coming abroad in the 90s and 2000s, there were no agents helping us do these things. You had to do everything yourself. So now that people have shown they can't do applications, the agents are just cleaning you out. They are cleaning your bank, asking you for loads of money. Okay, you can apply for these things yourself. You can apply for the school yourself. You can apply for visa yourself. Know the information. Have the information I'm telling you. That's why I went back to why are they asking for this? Why am I telling you don't sell a piece of land and then put 500,000 in your account and then produce this bank statement to the officer? The visa officer will be like, this person is trying to trick me. They had nothing in this account for 3 months. And all of a sudden, they've sold a property for 500,000 just to fool me that they are coming for a short period, right? So know why they're asking for these things so that you don't confuse yourself. And also, it's a good idea to know the information before now you go to an agent, pay all your money. You don't even know the processes. You don't even know the school they're applying for you. You don't know anything. It's good to know information yourself. Empower yourself so that even when, now an agent is asking you for, oh, you lost me. Oh, how? My internet is working. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Somebody texted, somebody put in the chat that they lost me. Oh. Oh. And everything on my end seems to be working. My internet is working. Anyway, poleni sana. If you cannot hear me or see me, I have no idea what happened. I have no idea what happened. Okay, now you can hear me. Okay. All right. Any other questions that I can answer before we wrap up? Any other question? All right. Well, I appreciate very much all of you for joining me today. We'll do another one pretty soon. We'll announce it on our YouTube channel. We'll announce it on our Facebook. Thank you. Thank you. We will announce it again so that you know when I'm coming live again. And also watch out for YouTube videos about all these things that we talk about. All right. So everyone have a good night. If it's night where you are, And um, have a good day if you're in a time zone where it's daytime. Oh, more questions. For visitor visa, you need invitation. Yes. So visitor visa. Okay. I hope. Okay. Some people can hear me and some cannot. That's okay. I hope you've gotten little bits of information that might be helpful for you. Also, ask it on the forums. You see how busy we are answering all your questions on the Telegraph and also and on our WhatsApp. Okay. We will answer them as much as we can. Learn as much as you can. Information is what you arm yourself with. Don't give all your documents to an agent and then they do application. You don't even know. A lot of people applied with agents and you see them on the forum asking, how do I know where my application, what is the status of my application? If you don't know where it is, if you don't know how it's even done, you have no idea, right? So always arm yourself with information so that you know. And when you go and they apply for you, you can ask them, okay, you applied online. Okay, how do I track it? Okay. All right. Someone has a question. I would wish to apply for visit visa after graduating with a 17-year. Will she be issued with a visitor visa for graduation? So if you want to bring a minor, again, remember the burden of proof. You have to show how this 17-year-old child is coming. Like, do you have enough money? Because now remember the bank statement I was talking about for one person, now you need for two. Okay, so you need a very big bank statement to show that you can afford yourself and this person that you're bringing. Okay, so the proof is on you, and it's your niece, so you need a letter from the parents saying why they are releasing their 17-year-old child to you to come to Canada for graduation. They will ask for a letter from the parents, of course, or the one parent. If the child only has one parent, have that letter giving you permission with the niece to come with her. All right. And then a big bank statement, either from her parents or if you're the one now bringing her under your bank statement, again, produce a lot of money because the most people who are able to come, even there are people who come here with their families. You'll see like a whole family of mother, father, four children. They can, but they are doing very well off where they are from. They have businesses, they have bank accounts, they have cars, they have houses, they have. So show who you are in order to convince the visa officer that really you and the niece are only coming for a short visit and then you will return. All right. And with that, we will end today's broadcast. Thank you for watching. We will see you again very soon. When we are ready to present again, we will send you a link. So stay tuned on our forums. All right. And for those who don't have our links, please ask for them. Ask Joe, for the links. He will send them to you. All right. Any other questions, ask on the forums and we'll be glad to answer you. Okay. Have a good night, everyone. Can one be allowed to do a diploma course on a visit visa? No, you cannot study. When you're on a visit visa, you're only on a visit visa unless you apply to a school, they give you admission. I was ending and then I saw that question. If you come on a visit, anything that's more than 6 months, you have to apply for a study visa, a study permit. You cannot study for something that's over 6 months without a study permit. Okay, so you apply for a study permit and then you study, and then if you graduate, you can either look for a job, an employer again who's willing to hire you, and then you start working, or you apply for higher level of degree. And you have, with every degree, you have to apply for study visa, because if the diploma is 1 year and you finished and now you want to do a bachelor's and it's 4 years, you have to apply for a new study permit for the 4 years. All right. So have a good night. We will see you on WhatsApp and on Telegraph. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate all of you.